that there's not a better airport in terms of its geographical location. It's centrally located in the United States. If they look at a map, that's how they view it. And it's also centrally located between Europe and Asia. And so, and it helps as well that we were able, while we were there, to announce that United is putting back in place in March a nonstop to London. So there were all of those different kinds of conversations that we had that related to Denver really as a hub and built as a hub airport, and the amount of traffic coming through Denver. The people who had been through Denver International Airport, the Asians that we met, either from China or Japan, are very impressed with that airport and impressed with its operations, impressed, I think, with just how it functions. So those are all the virtues of the airport that we talked about, but that they already understood as well. In terms of our major competitor, I don't know who that is, but they mentioned a few different cities that they'll consider.
I think most people understand the need to promote commerce, especially during tough economic times, but there are some taxpayers, and we've received emails from some of them who question the wisdom of doing this, with the economy the way it is now. What would you tell those taxpayers?
I would tell them that we need to create jobs, and that some of that may involve some level of investing taxpayer resources in order to do that. And that we really believe this was the right thing to do because of the opportunities that are presented. We met with a couple different companies that are right now contemplating a significant North American manufacturing presence. So you create highly skilled jobs, you create a sort of a vertical part of the clean energy economy, and there are companies that have the resources to do that, and do that in the next year or 2 years. And because it is already a strength of ours, because we've already been able to build upon that, this just adds to that, and adds to it in a way that over the long term will benefit significantly. Think Vestas, a $700 million investment over a 2-year period. And if the state has to travel to Denmark to close that deal and spend some money traveling to Denmark to close that deal, that is a fantastic return on the investment. Now, we did not, we didn't go there to close a deal, but in terms of how you have to really, I think, lure a major manufacturing opportunity to Colorado that will involve highly skilled labor, good paying jobs, there is some money that you have to spend up front to get it done.
I'm curious to know how your reception was in China when it came to renewable energy. China, of course, has been going around the country, around the world looking for oil reserves, and a lot of their economy is based on that. How did Colorado play into that? How did they respond when you talked about that?
No, I'll tell you, I had a very positive series of meetings, but maybe most significantly with the Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs. This is a man who was in the room when President Hu called Barack Obama to congratulate him. So he's highly placed, he's a friend of the president, and we had this conversation. And what he said is, we understand the need in China to have a policy about reducing greenhouse gas emissions. You don't have to be in Beijing very long to understand that. I mean, it is a place with a great deal of pollutants in the air, and they understand that the need to do that. And he said there are people that are worried that this can become a place where the United States and China confront each other over this. And he said, we really think that as opposed to confronting each other, that there are ways for us to work in parallel, so that the United States, when it is putting in place its own climate policy, can turn to China and really operate in a leadership fashion. You asked the question and it's your phone. Oh, yeah, that's right. Bob Rawlings calling you with a follow-up. For you. But I mean, it was really a positive way of thinking about it from the most highly placed Chinese official that we met with. While we were gone, President-elect Obama had a video appearance at a governor's conference on climate change, where he talked about his goals and his intent really to work on this as a significant priority for his administration. And the individual that we met with, the vice minister, said as well that it is a priority for China. China is a larger emitter of greenhouse gas emissions than the United States. For the first time in the history of sort of the industrial world, China overtook the United States as emitter of greenhouse gas pollutants. So we have to work together on this. And this is why I underscore this. If you think back to Colorado and the great research that's happening here as it relates to renewables, as it relates to energy efficiency and conservation, we have, I think, a lot to add. As Western governors, we're focusing on this administration pouring money into clean coal technologies, putting resources, I should say pouring money, putting resources into clean coal technologies that could only benefit China because of the coal resources that they have. But that's this place where I think there's a symbiosis for China and Colorado and China and the United States.
How many times, I'm sorry, my last question. How many times, if any, did you talk to companies, businesses, government leaders who said, we like your proposal, but we don't have any money. We're in a recession too. Did you hear that?
No, well, no. And it's not that Japan's not in a recession. I mean, the figures that were released indicated negative growth over 2 consecutive quarters, and so by definition, they are in a recession. And yet, the companies that we were speaking with that were most, the most significant part of the conversation were companies that are looking for expanding their manufacturing opportunities in America. And they're looking specifically to places that Colorado ideally suits the needs of that company for their next North American expansion. And part of why we're there is because they have a desire to expand. The other part of it happens to be that they're involved in expanding into the clean energy world. I mean, they're reading the newspapers. They see that this next president has made a decision that part of the stimulus package is going to be to try and add jobs in the clean energy field. Colorado is just ideally poised to take advantage of that. So in China, really, I mean, they're sort of a little better off. A year ago in China, they were looking at how to limit growth. Now they're looking at their own stimulus package, and part of that they believe helps them grow at another 8.5% over the next year. So they're in sort of better shape, I think, than Japan. But the Japanese are, quite frankly, where we had the best and most direct conversations about opportunities in Colorado that matched what these companies are looking for.
Deborah, you have time only for 2 more.
I have.
Colleen?
Colleen's ready.
Well, that's kind of what I was wondering just about is if Asia is better able and in a better position to take advantage or to invest than other trading partners. That's what you were saying. But just along the lines of the clean energy, how would that actually work, say, with Japan? Would they be investing in companies here, or are there companies there, like Vestas, that would come?
Japanese companies that are looking for manufacturing opportunities that create jobs in Colorado, like Vestas, 2,500 jobs over a couple of years, but major manufacturing, and these are actually Japanese and Chinese companies that involve primarily wind and solar. Those are the 2 arenas of the clean energy economy, I think, where our conversations were most significant, and they're major manufacturing opportunities.
And are those the 2 you mentioned? There are a couple of companies that could become.
Several. I mean, that's the thing is that this was, I think that Don alluded to that without being more specific about conversations, but I think they would like, to hold closer to the vest right now, is that there were several companies saying, well, this is what we're looking for. This is what the opportunity is, and there are major manufacturing opportunities in the area of solar and wind.
Governor,
last question.
I saw one of the places you visited was the Beijing Olympic complex. Did you leave there feeling like a Denver bid is more realistic, less realistic?
Well, here's what we know is that Chicago is bidding for 2016. The President-elect happens to come out of Chicago right now. So we don't know how much weight he's going to put behind that 2016 bid.